Welcome everyone to the next episode of the Execution Show. Today we have with us our guest Mr. Dev Gooha. What Sir has done, Sir has been the marketing head of NPCI, National Payments Corporation of India, when they released UPI into the country. So Sir was the marketing head of the entity when they launched UPI into the country. Sir has also relaunched RuPay debit cards into the country. Sir has also relaunched countless other payment interfaces or payment tools into the country that we use very commonly. Sir is currently working with MPay. MPay currently works with banks in 4 different continents and provides them with financial or digital banking support. Sir is the chief growth officer there. Sir is leading a 500 crore rupees business over there. And with that, would love to welcome you, sir, to the Execution Show. And it's our absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I look forward to discussing so many things with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really honored to have this conversation with you. Going back to what you said just now, UPI was basically a very good opportunity for me as a professional to deal with almost the whole overall ecosystem when it comes to the marketing side of the business. So we initially thought about launching UPI by way of testing it, in the marketplace. So as an entity, NPCI basically was testing UPI with top 20 banks that point of time. And initially, the idea of launching UPI was something else. Let's not get into that. But ultimately, I think the overall call was that, let's integrate UPI with the current banking applications which were already available in 2016.
Okay.
So in 2016, top 20 banks already had their mobile applications in place. So since we had a very short time to go to market at that point of time, so we had to take a call, and we took a call and we integrated UPI with the current banking applications which are already available at that point of time. So that was probably the fastest that you can actually get the product onboarded and playing in the marketplace. So, but the background of it was that we were already working on how do we make this a success when it comes to the application. So UPI, since it is getting integrated with core banks, 20 top banks, we were actually working very closely with these 20 top banks, and we were helping them promote UPI within their ecosystem, within the subscribers of that particular bank. The challenge here was that since UPI was something very new for everybody to adopt at that point of time, so the challenge here was to how do I shift my traditional subscribers, banking subscribers, from traditional banking to my digital platform, which was UPI, which was very seamless, which was even secure that point of time. But since any new product, for that matter, any new application that comes into the market does face a lot of challenges when it comes to adoption, right? So we had to really push our partners in the sense those top 20 banks to basically push UPI and bring their traditional subscribers switching over to the digital banking application, which was UPI enabled application. So we had a very integrated communication, branding, co-branding kind of marketing activity going on with these top 20 banks then, and we were pretty successful in onboarding those critical numbers that we were looking at when we were launching UPI. And it was although it was very, very tiring, it was very stretchful hours of work that we used to do. But at the end of the day, we were so happy with the kind of audience subscribers that we brought on board on those all 20 banks, and we actually did well. Initially also when we started off with UPI in that case. Today, everybody knows about UPI. Back then in 2016, nobody knew about UPI. Everybody had an apprehension about UPI, how this thing will work, whether it is secured, whether it is safe enough to use it. So as a marketing team, as a marketing ecosystem, we had our focus on trying to pitch to the last mile customers that this is a safe application to go by. This is a very, very secure application to go by. You can very well use it without even physically going to the bank.
Yeah.
You can safely operate all your banking needs, for that matter, sitting very safely at your house on your mobile. So we had the challenge of getting this into the minds of the consumers, and that is where I think MPCI, the whole team, and even the banks for that matter, we worked very closely, and each bank had their unique set of applications, issues and all of that, and we tried to address each of them individually, and ultimately I think by the end of, after the launch, I think we had a very successful run, looking at subscribers getting onboarded without even pushing for it. So that was something which is very organically happening. Once people understood that this is the ease of UPI, then people started onboarding UPI. I mean, it was like word of mouth. So if you have a good experience, obviously you're going to share it with your next door neighbor or next door or your friend or family, for that matter. So it became a very organic process for people to onboard UPI and start practicing UPI. And everybody got the taste of UPI. So now everybody is enjoying the benefits of UPI.
So you used a very interesting word, taste the benefits of UPI. I have a few questions. And before we jump to how to set up your career as into marketing, which is the theme of the show, but before that, about UPI, I have a set of questions about what you just said. So first things first, kabhi when you were working on it, when you were releasing it back 2016, and your team, kabhi socha tha itna bada ban jayega jo abhi hai?
कभी नहीं सोचा था.
Abhi, I don't know the numbers, but I think some 2-3 lakh crores being transferred every month, if I'm not wrong.
Even more. Last I think the numbers were close to, I think, 10 million transactions happening.
A crore transactions a month.
A month.
A day.
A day. That's the traction that UPI has achieved over a period of time. So in fact, we had our boss, Dilip sir, had a dashboard in front of him. So he used to track, what is the daily run rate, what is the weekly run rate, and what is the monthly run rate of UPI happening, across banks. And a superb taskmaster, a fantastic leader. And I think UPI saw the light of the day because of Dilip sir.
Wow. How one team can change the way entire country operates payment-wise. Wonderful, sir. So I have next question on this. Just logistically, things are coming up in my head. When you talk to 20 banks, I'm sure that conversation would not be the easiest conversation. 20 competing players in the same industry, to get them on board onto something that's as sensitive as transacting money. How did those conversations go?
So basically, NPCI is a body which is actually born out of a mandate of RBI. And RBI is the governing body of all the banks and the financial system in India. So typically what happened was that obviously there was this roadmap which was already there, that India needs to change the way it operates the financial ecosystem. One of the initial things which happened, luckily for all of us, that we onboarded onto the digital ecosystem, the payment ecosystem. So I think that is where the whole change happened, and this actually went across right from RBI to NPCI to all the banks, saying that now it's the time for change, and let's kind of onboard the digital ecosystem so that life becomes easy for everybody to do the payments, at least the transaction part of it. So I remember the theme that as a business, as an entity, NPCI had that point of time, which was nicely, I think, pitched by the then CEO and MD, Mr. AP Hota, was that he had this vision that NPCI would be touching 1 billion lives.
And they are.
And it happened. Okay. So he had this vision that NPCI at one point of time, with the kind of products and services that it is building in the marketplace, would probably touch 1 billion lives. So basically, that was the vision that the leader, as a leader of the organization, he had. And it actually went on to execute all that vision into actual groundwork and working closely with the banks and ultimately achieving that, within no time. So now we all know about UPI. But back then in 2016, it was a real challenge. To even go and open up a conversation with the bank saying that, we would want your guys to come on board for the digital UPI thing, right? So, but we had a tough time. In fact, most of the dialogues, most of the conversations that used to happen with the BD team.
Okay.
So we had this business development team in NPCI who used to go to the banks, speak to them as relationship managers and as providers of the roadmap that we have for UPI, and how do I integrate with the bank, the current ecosystem with the bank, and try and bring everybody onto the UPI fold.
Got it.
So most of the work was done there in that case. Yeah.
Got it. So that explains this part very well. So you also touched upon two things, which is one was obviously the bank's part of it, which was, let's say, a lot of partnerships, and RBI had a role to play. Also, there are other angles to it, which is people at the last, like the end consumer adopting it, which is end consumer using that, being familiar with that application and scanning and paying. And second, also the merchant, the one who's to receive. That merchant also getting activated and having that digital infrastructure. And because I remember a time where all different people are not very open to accepting digital payments.
No, there was a windfall situation. If you remember, demonetization happened on 8th of November 2016. Okay.
And exactly what date was UPI launched?
UPI was launched just some days before that.
Oh,
yeah.
So obviously that.
So early players like Paytm.
Yeah.
Let's take an example of Paytm. So Paytm by then had already had a huge ecosystem when it comes to the merchant side of the business, right? They already had their QR codes by which they were already doing transactions for the merchant side of the business. So P2P, P2M was already there that point of time.
What would P2P and P2B?
Peer-to-peer and peer-to-merchant was already there. So Paytm had already built that particular ecosystem, and I think to an extent other players were also, PhonePe was there, I think MobiKwik was there, and some other players were there. But Paytm had transformed. Paytm had the most edge when it comes to the digital, picking up the digital adoption for the last mile consumers, because please understand, at the end of the day, what does the consumer need? The consumer would only go for something which is already available in the marketplace. So by the time demonetization happened, okay, Paytm was already there at the merchant end in terms of payment acceptance on the digital network, right? So if I as a consumer, I am not digitally adopted still, when I go to a merchant and I kind of want to buy something, exchange something, or buy something there, obviously when I see a Paytm QR code there for payments, I'll download the Paytm app and try to do the transaction there itself. Okay, so this is where the whole thing happened. There was a major turnaround when it comes to the market share. So we all know that at the end of the day, the biggest market share which was captured by out of these 4 or 5 entities was Paytm. Because of only this reason, because they had the acceptance infrastructure already there at the merchant end. So as a consumer, I would definitely go and first download the Paytm app and do my transaction. Other guys were at that point of time catching up. in terms of setting up their acceptance network in the merchant ecosystem. But Paytm already had that in place. So that's the reason Paytm had the biggest share when it comes to the UPI market share at that point of time. Slowly, there other players came into the marketplace and all of that. But yeah, so you can say that Paytm was prevalently there in north, west, and some parts of the country, and south was very few places Paytm was there. But then over a period of time, I think in the last 4, 5, 6 years, I think things have changed. So whichever player is there right now in PhonePe and all of these guys, they have set up shop, and they have now they have good market share when it comes to their merchant ecosystem.
Got it.
So the acceptance network has now huge when it comes to the digital ecosystem. So any consumer, anybody wants to go there, now he's got an option of 2, 3 players. And even for that matter, even one QR code sufficing everybody for that matter. So there are no multiple QR codes which are lying on the merchant end. You know, so you can pay from one app, and that's about it.
Got it. So how much role? So I think UPI demonetization also had a big role in adoption, as you're pointing out. But despite that, the need is created. There is a need and everything. How do you go about? I understood the merchant side, because that's very directly linked with their business objectives. How do you go about on the consumer side? How do you promote the brand of UPI and NPCI, and also you're working with different banks who have their own brands to promote, and all of them together promoting the practice of UPI or the habit of scanning instead of, let's say, a card or a cash or something like that?
So I don't know whether you followed this or not, but earlier QR code was not there. It was mobile phones, numbers basically. So you need to literally type the mobile phone number and then you could pay. QR came in the second phase. Okay, where people were supposed to scan the QR code and make a direct payment. For that matter, there was no need of mobile phone as a entry when it comes to the payment system. But coming back to your the consumer pull. How did the consumer...
The habit part.
The habit, basically.
From a marketing perspective.
From a marketing perspective would be... So basically what happens, I'll tell you what. You build a ecosystem where you can facilitate the acceptance of payment, and that too digitally, and that too what you call is touch free that point of time, because of COVID also.
Yeah, exactly.
The second windfall which came in was COVID, basically. So you had a situation where every consumer has to change the habit of how do I do my transactions in such a serious times when we cannot actually physically go and touch anything for that matter.
So contactless.
Contactless. So that's where the whole thing came in. That's where the QR code came in. And that is where we all evolve. As human beings, we all evolve. Okay. As human beings, we also evolve when it comes to going about doing your daily course for that matter. So even this is also become a part of our daily core for that matter. So when we go to a shop front or when we go to make a payment, we don't even blink an eye. We just open our phones and we scan the QR code and we make the payment. It is all contactless. This has happened subconsciously, but it has happened with a purpose. The purpose everybody has forgotten because of COVID. But now it has become a regular affair. So you expect that the payment is going to happen there over a QR code, contactless. So there is a typical timeline to, if you look at the whole timeline, you'll know that consumers, which you said very rightly, have actually evolved over a period of time, even when it comes to making payments. Because as we discussed earlier they used to make a payment through typing a mobile phone number, then came QR code, then came this, then came that. You never know, maybe tomorrow there is some device which might come, which you just have to touch and your payment will be done.
In fact, so much so, to the credit of UPI, I flew to Delhi today and I am not carrying a rupee of cash. So all trusting the UPI ecosystem, and
Yeah.
and I think a lot of our generation has become that.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
they have, it's okay to not have cash till the time you have a
Absolutely.
mobile phone and an internet connection.
Absolutely.
That's all. And I think all of that is the UPI and the payment structure that's there.
Yeah.
So I understood the different components. There are two more components that I would want to touch base upon. One is how big a role the digital push, because I also remember there was Digital India and all those things from the Prime Minister or from the central government. That played in this. Did that play a role in this? And second, also, do you think Jio had a role to play in this? Because that was also around 2016.
Yeah.
Because and that's where the mobile internet became accessible. That's where people, domestic help and let's say watchmen and everyone had access to a lot of mobile data. So what role did these two factors
No,
play?
obviously you are right when you say that, so there is something also which is called affordability.
Okay.
Okay. So if you, even now for that matter, if you Google, you will find that data rates in India are probably the cheapest
Yeah.
when it comes to consuming data. Okay. And we are one nation which is consuming the most data
Yeah.
when it comes to the ecosystem is concerned. And you're right when you say that, the telecom ecosystem or the telecom players were there at the right time at the right place, so to say. So when India went on with a digital spree, as per Honorable PM's mandate, even the telecom players, for that matter, offered the consumer something which probably nobody was offering globally, which were the rates. Okay, I'm sure you know back then there was a major disruption when it comes to even the telecom, for that matter. You remember we used to make two recharges. If you had a prepaid phone, you used to make one recharge of talk time, and we used to make one recharge of data. Okay. In fact, Jio came in and disrupted the marketplace by introducing only one recharge, which was data recharge, and the value add was talk time, and everybody followed.
And also the quantity of data. I think before that, I remember fairly before 2016, 3-4 years, we used to recharge phones for like a GB a month or 2 GBs a month, and today that's 2 GBs a day, and we exhaust that also by afternoon. So I think that also
played a major role, because otherwise they were you won't expect consumers to be digital adopters, for that matter, unless you don't give them the playbook, as in the data to play around with. Okay, you have to give the basic fundamental infra for them to go digital. So if the consumers are not able to consume the basic data, then obviously there is no question of going digital. So all the other things will fail in that case. So I think it was a nice integration of both the ecosystems. In the Digital India and the telecom ecosystem coming, or I don't know whether that was a coincidence or maybe a thought through strategy, that the data rates were so low that everybody and anybody for that matter went on digital, and they were, everybody was adopting to UPI that point of time, and probably we had the fastest run, that point of time when it came to adopting digital this thing. And that time there was 3G. And then after 4G then after it was 4G.
4G was
4G was delivered. So that was also a kind of a
similar
catalyst in for people to go about doing their recharge and come on to 4G.
And that point, I think Jio was free for a while.
Jio was free for a while. Yes.
So that also led to a lot of adoption of those new SIM cards for. And that was just a new experience for a very large part of the population.
Yeah, because 3G, I mean, you know the speeds of 3G, right? So for 3G user coming onto a 4G experience would be totally different.
Totally.
Right?
Got it.
So that's what the whole thing.
So what I've picked up so far is obviously the atmosphere part. You were working with banks. you're working with obviously the RBI and all the government entities. You're working with merchant activations. You're working with customer user behavior change. Telecom helped you. Demonetization helped. COVID was a windfall that came up later. Again, from a UPI perspective. So that these are the variables at play. Now, as a marketer, you're sitting, and obviously a lot of things were in future which you could never have predicted. But as a marketer, now you're sitting with this problem statement: I need to get UPI out. And we understood, and you have your budgets, and you have. How do you go about just hitting the first conversation in the market once you have, let's say, the banks and the tech and everything is in place? Or do you not even talk? Let the banks talk and you activate the bank.
No, so that does not happen. At the end of the day, you have to push your message back to the consumers, because as a business, you are a B2B, but at the end of the day, your impact is going to be B2C.
Okay.
As simple as that.
Sure.
Because your application is going to be used by the last mile user. Okay. So you have to get the message out to the last mile consumers who actually going to use your application for the purpose that you have kind of provided it. So that time I remember that basic hygiene. So at that time also even banks had their basic hygiene marketing activities going around. So that time I think we were just coming over the issue about saving paper and all of that. So there were this digital mailers which used to go to the consumers at the end of the day.
From the banks.
From the bank side. Since we were partnering with the banks, I think most of the messages that we have sent out as a partner, co-branded messages, all of them went on those particular banking notifications which were going to the last mile customers. Apart from that, you used to have this this internet banking where anybody and everybody, whoever opens their banking application for that matter on the web, and even the application for that matter, all those notifications used to go there. That
the pop-ups
and all of that. In fact, we went to an extent where we also kept last mile consumer contest for that matter.
What would that contest?
So we went on to create traction for UPI. We actually went and did a consumer contest, as in we actually went in and advertised that any lucky customer, one lucky customer, two lucky customer would get something like a bike or a car or whatever for that matter. One lucky customer.
Got it.
So even that created a huge pull for people to actually come and experience UPI for that matter. You never know, you might be a lucky customer.
And anyways you're paying.
Anyway, you're just downloading that application and just paying your payments through that application.
Perfect.
Still, it is a banking application, but you never know, you can be a lucky winner for that matter. So obviously, so there is a push which is happening from the ecosystem, which is the banks as a partner. But as a business, you are also supposed to create that pull at the end of the day, right? So how do I create customer pull? I have to create the customer pull by creating an ecosystem where I will have to get the message out to the customer that here is something which you can use, and you can also become lucky for that matter.
Got it.
So that made a lot of people actually come and experience UPI.
Got it.
Whichever bank they were in.
So primarily you're saying to control the story, to control the narrative, the partnerships itself were leveraged because those partners had a lot of distribution with them and very direct distribution to what's relevant to you.
Yes.
Because you're building on that infrastructure. And that's the primary strategy that UPI has been built on. And obviously there is so much more that goes around it as well.
Yeah.
So far so good. So I've understood the NPCI way, how UPI was launched and so many other things. And clearly it has been some journey yahan tak aane mein. And obviously who knows where it goes, who knows, it might become a global thing, who knows where it goes essentially. So now my question is for the audience and from the audience, and the main theme of the theme of the podcast, and why we call it the execution show. We want a lot of actionable, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3 format knowledge for the reader or for the audience in this case. So now, sir, let me ask you an open-ended question. एक स्टूडेंट है सेकेंड थर्ड ईयर probably something in learning something in commerce, और कोई स्टूडेंट हैज सम सॉर्ट ऑफ रीडिंग दैट दे हैव डन, क्लासेस अटेंड किए हैं मार्केटिंग के ऊपर. दूसरा कोई entrepreneur है या someone who started something small, maybe 1 year back, 6 months back, or is looking to start, and they don't come from a marketing background or they have not studied or seen marketing directly. Maybe they are an engineer by profession and they've built a software, SaaS, something on that line. Or maybe they're someone who's just launched a let's say cooking business, something on those lines. So for these people, how do they go about starting their journey into marketing, learning marketing, and starting their journey in marketing in a very practical manner?
So here is the thing. So marketing basically is built on some 4 fundamental pillars.
Okay, sure.
That we religiously follow.
Okay.
And it goes by the 4 P's that we all know, which is the product, price, placement, and promotion that we are talking about. So if in both the cases, if I am a entrepreneur and I want to start my own business, so I have to be very sure about what is the status of my product.
Okay.
That I am going to bring on the table when it comes to the marketplace. Okay. So if I have a product which is a Me Too product, okay, will I be able to make it a success? Will be a big question mark. Okay. So there has to be something very unique in the product that as a business you should bring on the table, which will make the life easy for the user as a consumer to do going around using it and making his life even more easy for that matter. So the product plays the role, a major role when it comes to the whole ecosystem.
Sure.
So we start with the product, and we have to ensure that the product has to have the right product market fit.
Okay.
So when we talk about product market fit, typically would be that if I am getting into a competitive space and if I have a product which is not so different from any other competitive product, then I will have to push a lot of money into the marketplace to make it happen for me. Okay, at the end of the day. But then the other side of the story is that if I have a product which is really different in terms of user experience, in terms of any other features or nature of the product that I'm using, and which is very typically different from whatever is available in the marketplace, I have an edge. Then I will be able to create a unique proposition for my product in the marketplace, which will have a unique pull in the marketplace. I don't have to fight, I don't have to invest that much money to bring my product up to that particular top of the mind recall, because of the uniqueness of the product, it will be used by my consumer. So there is a typical pull which will happen in the marketplace if you have a unique proposition in the product itself.
Got it.
Okay. So that is the product
First
side.
point is the product. Sure.
Then about the pricing. So how do I price my product? This is the most challenging part of any business for that matter. Either you succumb to the market place where you have competitive market pricing, or you have a unique, since you have a unique product, you also price it uniquely. So people would definitely know that, this is one product which is so different from the marketplace that the other guys are offering. And that's the reason it commands a premium at the end of the day, right? So again, as an entrepreneur, as a startup guy, or anybody for that matter, who wants to position the product at a higher level, at a level where people will aspire to go for the product, the pricing also gives a sense of a premium in that case. So the moment you price your product premium, people by default will have an assumption that probably this is a better product in that sense. So even the pricing at the end of the day plays a major role.
Got it.
In that sense.
Got it. So do you think a product, let's say with a better service with it, better, let's say, someone who has a Me Too product, because why I ask this question, because most viewers will have products that are already existing in the market, or some form of that product is existing in that market, or are in competitive space, and that is where most people will be or are. In that case, do you think that product can be supplemented by additional features around the product rather than the core product being better?
So here are these things. So one is the product itself that you can differentiate.
Sure.
And make it very unique and stand out in the marketplace. That is one way of looking at things. A classic example, if I can give you, would be a consumer product like brands, a kind of car brand.
Okay.
So there are multiple car brands which are available, right? Now, typically, if I am a consumer and I want to go for one particular brand because I am a kind of little bit biased for a particular brand like a Maruti or a Tata or a Hyundai for that matter, I want to go for it. But then I find that when I actually look at the overall ecosystem of that particular brand, so what happens as a consumer, I as a consumer of a car brand, ideally what I should look at is that what is the brand offering me when it comes to maintaining the life cycle of that particular product. So life cycle of the product typically would be within a period of say 10 to 15 years for that matter. So what is the benefits that the brand is offering me to maintain the life cycle of the product, to maintain and upkeep the product? It also translates into, at the end of the day, what is my cost of ownership when it comes to keeping that particular car in that sense. True. So if I go and try and evaluate that, for example, let's take a hypothetical situation where we have a similar kind of a product. Almost all the cars are better when it comes to each and other brands that we are talking about. Yeah. But then, in case for example, if Skoda wants to launch a particular car and Skoda offers me let's take an example of a 3 years unlimited warranty and service free for that matter, then my weightage for that particular brand is tilting towards Skoda, because I know for sure here is Tata, here is Maruti, which is offering me a 1 year warranty service, and here is a Skoda car which is offering me a 3 year warranty without any this thing, right? So what I will do is I will evaluate, and then I will try to understand what is the value proposition behind the whole ecosystem.
Got it.
So once I derive that, although I am buying that Skoda car at a ticket size which is little bit higher than the other two brands, but what I am getting is peace of mind at the end of the day, because I don't have to spend a single rupee to maintain that particular car for the next 3 years.
Got it. Got it.
So that is how you build your product proposition with the total ecosystem that you have to support the brand and to support that particular product over the life cycle of that particular product.
What are the next two P's of marketing?
So next two would be obviously the placement and the promotions. Yeah. So placement would be typically, say for example, if I am again coming back to the same topic, we were discussing that as an entrepreneur, as a startup guy, what should be my go-to-market strategy. So the go-to-market strategy would typically entail that, you cannot have a strategy to go and do business unless and until you are not rightly placed, or you have not established your business touch points. Okay. So to let's call it that. So touch points would be typically that, if I am into a certain kind of a business, I should ideally set up my marketplace with my business touch points so that whatever I am selling should be available at that particular counter over a period of time, till at least when I am starting to go for it, I am launching in that sense. So typically in a B2C scenario, or typically in a B2C scenario or a D2C kind of a scenario, this is the most important thing that you have to look out for. Okay, that the moment you think of reaching out or launching your product or service or a solution, you have to be placed rightly in the marketplace. You have to ensure that your marketplace is already there. People, at least the guys who are going to sell your product, service or solution, knows about your product, service and solutions, and you are quite visible at the retail end, at the counter end, so that people can actually go and ask for your products and services, for that matter. Same goes for a D2C kind of. D2C is direct to consumers, and although they are mostly on digital, most of the business ecosystem is actually on digital. But I can give you a classic case of Ola, where right from the order booking to the delivery, everything happens on a digital platform. But at the end of the day, if I really want to have a look and feel and a touch experience of the product, I still have to go to a flagship showroom and get to know physically what the product is all about. And again, the touch point there, as we said, the relationship manager, okay, the guy who's available there at the particular showroom will actually walk you through all the SKUs, the different products which are available in that particular flagship store. He will explain you what is the feature of S1, S2, S3 and all of that. Based on the kind of inputs that you gather from that particular place, you come back, you might have set your mind for an S1, but probably you're going to go for an S3. Okay. You never know that. So that's how things work in real life. So the placement is very important when it goes to the marketplace.
So what you're essentially saying is कि कहाँ पे बिकता है, where can I go and buy that product, where can I, the touch point, what's the touch point,
exactly
कहाँ पे वो product दिखेगा, मिलेगा, something like that. And now about the placement and about the promotion, and then I have few questions that anyone who's beginning, they have these questions around pricing, around placement, and these questions, because most of their marketing lessons are borrowed from Nikes and the Apples of the world. But that's not how you start, that's not where you start at day one. You don't do a lot of things at day one. So we'll come to that, but what about placement, sir?
So placement we have talked about.
What about promotions? Sir?
Promotions we need to talk. So once your placement is done, then you need to take care of the kind of visibility that you are gunning for. So in terms of promotion, one has to be very, very careful of the fact that if you are in a competitive domain, you have to at least have the benchmark to look at the competitive spends which are happening, and then you have to provide at least that basic investment for you to have the same kind of visibility at the end of the day.
So that's about the 4 Ps. I have few questions on the different 4 Ps. So again, we touched upon product initially. कि अगर आपका product अलग है तो very good, अगर अलग नहीं है तो we can even work around the product. We might, again, nothing better than a good product. I think that's most of the marketing there itself.
But now product is basically the product, the service and the ecosystem.
Got it. So promotion mein the questions that people ask is, they want, day one pe they want to position the product everywhere. It should be available on the offline stores, it should be available on the online stores, and obviously everything is chargeable. Everything you can pay and place at a lot of places. They would want a D2C store also day one, Amazon store also, offline presence also. So how do you look at picking and choosing for a company that's just started and a young company? How do you look at promotions? Ki more the merrier, or pick and choose your battles?
No, so promotions typically
not promotions. Positioning.
Positioning it. Okay, so positioning it would be, position is again a part of the promotion. This thing, but at the end of the day,
I'm confusing terms. By position, I meant where is it available? What are the touch feel points?
Placements. Okay. Placements. Okay.
Apologies.
So placement would be, yeah. So placement would be typically, so let's look at the ecosystem now. The ecosystem basically is that you have the feasibility of going online and offline, both. Okay. But doing offline business would be much more cost for the business at the end of the day. Getting on board online is something which is hardly there in terms of doing business. So obviously, if you have a really good product and if you want to go out to the marketplace, the first thing that you'll do is look at online virtual stores, and you sign up with those guys, and then you go online. You see what is the acceptance when it comes to your product, service, or solution. And based on that, then probably you will go offline and start doing that also in that case. I'll give you a very classic example of all these car operators, second-hand car operators, cars 24/7, all these guys. Initially, if you look at them, they had gone to the market only on the digital platform. Once they have understood the market, once they have understood what is the acceptance of the marketplace, then they have actually start building up their offline marketplace also in that sense. So that is how things operate. And nothing is right or nothing is wrong. All depends on the nature of business that you do.
Got it.
Right? It all depends on what is the strategy that you want to take, which is the cost effective one, and where you don't have to incur or invest a lot of amount, time, energy and amount into getting to do the business for that matter.
So essentially what you have said so far, or what you have said is, the 4 Ps, I'll just quickly in a very actionable format, I'll sum it up. First is the product. You should have a product that's differentiated, and your differentiation can be the core product. Your differentiation can be around the ecosystem of the product or the service that you sell.
Absolutely.
That's the first thing about the first P, that's product. Second, we talked about price. About pricing, the idea is we want to be higher than the competition. That would be the best case, and that is only done when your product has delivered value or your product has superior value.
Exactly.
Second, when someone is starting out, they are afraid and they want to price it down or price it up. In those cases, typically if your product is not too different, a good place to have your pricing is the range that the competition is operating in.
Exactly.
Not to go too much outside that
That's the
range
benchmark.
on both the sides.
Yeah.
And in that, we might want to do more. Instead of trying to reduce the price, instead of saying that, okay, 50 ka 40 kar de, we might want to give something that's a little more valuable to the author and to the consumer.
Yeah.
I have this habit of author. To the consumer in the same price.
Yes.
And that's where we can build additional value and get our attention.
Yeah.
That's second. Third point we discussed was placements. Within placements, what we saw was within placements, for a younger company, again, we discussed where all it is available, what are the touch points, but we saw, as a company, you don't want to get activated at all places. First thing is, you might, as a smaller company or as a young founder, you might want to resort to something that's a pilot, test it out as quickly as possible, as cheaply as possible. Next, what you can do is you can activate your stores digitally at least. If your product, and obviously placements are to do with the product, not every product can be distributed same way, but placements have to be in line with the product, and also you start with the digital one, and once you have success there, feedback there, based on that you get more and more touch points, because maintaining those touch points will also be expensive. Then the last point we touched base upon was promotions. Within promotions, we saw that different products have different strategies on how you go about promoting. For a young company, the idea is just put your message in the market. Do not optimize on views and all those things right now. Tell whatever you have to say, maybe spend very limited amount, or maybe organically you will reach few people who will view your product, give you a feedback. And that is where your messaging starts. And if your messaging is working, if what people are saying and what you are saying is resonating with people, you will slowly and steadily start growing an audience. But the problem there is that will be very slow. So once you have some sort of good feedback, good success, you can scale it up by paid campaigns digitally or offline. Offline campaigns would be slightly more expensive. Digitally, you can scale it up, and then a lot of sophistication will come into your system going down. You do not want to get that sophistication day one. So your customer data, your targeting, your segmentation, all those things will come later on as your funnel becomes bigger and bigger. Meaning people who know about you, people who talk about you, and there we are tracking this noise, a word called voice, the share of voice. In that space, how many people are talking about you versus your competitors? So that is in an action, but those things will not happen in 1 year, 6 months. Those things are long
Over a period of
journeys,
time. Over a period
5
of time.
years, 4 years, maybe longer as well. And that is how a young person with a very small business or someone who's starting out, that is how they should think about it typically. Also, what is important is the resources that you have and the objective that is to be achieved. If your company has raised a lot of capital, then the idea is not organic, the idea is not inorganic, the idea is you have a return or you have an objective to serve.
So yeah, so coming back to your this thing, one thing probably we have to discuss also in terms of whenever we are talking about promotions, we are also talking about what are the ROIs.
Yeah, exactly. It should
In
be
terms
profitable.
of the marketing investment that we are doing in that particular this thing. So typically in a startup situation, you will have to apportion for that particular investment, and you at least have to have a runway for at least 1 year, 2 years period till the time you settle down in the marketplace. That is, you can say that, probably you should have a runway for 1 year, 2 year, till the time you don't kind of break even.
Yeah.
Okay. Till the time you don't break even in terms of your commercials, what we talked about, the input cost that you've incurred to roll the business out, till that time you should have a runway. So till that time it is all about investment.
Yeah.
After you have broken even, the day you start making profits, that is how you kind of get into the P&L stage of each and everything. So there is a product P&L, there is a market P&L, and there is a marketing P&L.
P&L for context would be profit and loss statement.
Profit and loss. So basically, the product guy is handling the product P&L in terms of his KPIs. He has to understand that which are the markets that I can go and launch my product so that I get much more market share, much more revenue share in terms of product. Market P&L typically is assigned to the marketing guy, saying that, okay, these are the investments which I've done behind this particular product, behind this solution, behind this service. So whether I have got back the revenue when it comes to the sales part of it, yes or no. So all that is now accounted for.
Got it.
Okay. And over and above that, then sustaining the business over a period of time, that, okay, what has been the ROI? ROI is typically tactical most of the times because it is done for the tactical objectives of the business, where you have investment a certain amount of money, typically to address the sales objectives of the business, and whether you have achieved the ROI.
Got it.
In terms of sales.
Got it.
The numbers and the revenues.
Got it.
At the end of the day.
Got it. So for a younger company, it's the numbers, the revenue, and the bottom line. For a bigger company, they can be a plethora of or a large number of KPIs that are key indicators that they are delivering for. For younger companies, it's their sales and profits. A simple Excel sheet is what most of them would be using. So got it. Got that. So one last question to this before we end, before we conclude the discussions. What is the difference between sales, the function that sales has, and marketing has? Because when one is starting out, everything seems same. So this is a question where people get a lot of confusion from.
Okay, so let me tell you the difference. The difference is it's actually very different.
Yeah.
These two are very different animals altogether.
Exactly.
So sales is somebody who would typically pick up all the market related numbers, in the sense the sales guy knows that, if this is my product, service or solution, these are probably the right set of target audiences where I would be able to go and sell. Marketing basically supports the sales organization. Marketing will give the sense of what is the background of that particular entity, in the sense what is the current set of competitive products, services and solutions which are there in the marketplace. Okay, even the sales guy has got some knowledge, but the in-depth understanding of the competitive scenario is there with the marketing guy. Okay, so the marketing guy will orient the sales guy, do a proper orientation of the sales guy, saying that, okay, if you're going and trying to sell this particular product in that particular marketplace, this is how the competition looks like. This is the market share of competition A, competition B, competition C. These are the pricings of competition A, competition B, competition C, and this is how things will work out in that sense. So if you're trying to sell something to that particular market, you should know what is the background of the market in that sense. Sales typically is driven by numbers. Marketing objective is basically to support those sales numbers.
To get that awareness.
At the end of the day, everything is commerce. Okay, so it is a kind of an integrated kind of a work that the sales and the marketing guy does. Sales takes a lot of inputs from marketing. Even marketing takes a lot of inputs from sales.
Got it.
At the end of the day.
Got it. All right. So I think, sir, that is it. I think we've had a very detailed conversation. What we have done is we have understood in detail NPCI, that's National Payment Corporation of India. We have understood how UPI was launched, the factors around it. We touched upon, for a beginner, the 4 P's of marketing and what are the questions that they are having. And that it has been an absolutely wonderful learning for me. It has been, I'm sure for our audience also, it has been absolutely valuable. Thank you for your time. Thank you, sir, for your time. It has been absolutely wonderful. So you have a book that's coming up.
Right.
Do you want to talk about the book for a couple of minutes?
Yeah, so the book talks about, I think the book will emphasize more on the reality and the activations that one needs to take a call on in a typical business pain point or a business situation, a challenge. So the book is very interestingly done in a manner so that anybody who goes through that particular book, each and every chapter talks about a challenge, talks about a business pain point, talks about a situation, and how do you as a marketeer overcome that particular situation, overcome that particular challenge, and try and create the ecosystem to create a successful business or a marketing campaign for that matter. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting.
Wow. So that has been absolutely wonderful, sir. We've learned so much. We've learned about, from a beginner's perspective, we've learned about marketing. We've also learned from a relatively bigger size company's perspective as well. So there is something to gain for almost everyone into marketing in this. We also learned about NPCI, and it's amazing to read, see, learn so much about what goes behind the scenes. So I look forward to actually, sir, reading the book that will come out, and I'm super excited for it. By the time you're viewing this podcast or in different formats, you would please do check out the book. It would be there if it would be released about a month from now. That has been amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in and for your time. Thank you, sir, for joining in. And I look forward to the book. Let's meet in the next episode of the Execution Show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.